Like most people, I love to organize. I like the look of a tidy drawer. Labels make me feel happy. And I love that like false sense of self-importance that I get from looking under my sink and thinking, wow, she really has it all together because my cleaning supplies are orderly. The problem is at some point, organization content online feels like it's gone from helpful information to content that's just about getting views or getting monetized. And as someone who has been making organizational content for years, I have ridden this wave, and I've realized it's a really fine line between where you're in this helpful category to where you can slip over into that like irrational isn't going to work category. What I've really come to realize is that some of the most popular organizing tips that have grown online are not just not helpful, but they're also completely not realistic. So today I want to talk about the popular organizing tips that have grown online that just don't work, or at least don't work for a lot of people. Of course, there's always going to be some outliers out there, and maybe some of these work for you. I'm sure there's someone in the comments who is going to tell me that decanting her Oreos has changed her life. But in this video, I'm focusing more on the mass majority of people, the organizational tips that didn't work for me because they were either too hard to maintain or were too much effort, or they just weren't worth what they offered. And to those of you who are outliers, I believe in you. I support you. I hope that your Oreos are thriving in their decanted glass jar. Truly, I do, because if life has taught me anything, it is that there is no one right way to do things. But for those of us who don't want to decant our Oreos, let's begin. Number one is fridge organization. Now, listen, I'm not saying your fridge should not be organized at all. Obviously, we don't want like raw chicken balanced on top of yogurt, but the internet has taken fridge organization to a place I am not sure we ever thought it could go. Also, did you know that there was a trend called fridge-scaping? I mean, I love this. I applaud it on every level except the level that expects I am going to be able to use, manage, or create it. I mean, can you imagine having to like move that little deer to get to your butter every time you needed it? I would lose my mind, just go clinically insane. And I get the appeal. To quote this article in Food and Wine that is titled, "Why are people decorating the inside of their refrigerators?" A woman who was interviewed said, "I saw a video where someone had an orchid in their fridge and everything was in aesthetic jars or in picture frames, and it just lit up my dopamine centers." That is what this type of content does. It lights up our dopamine centers, and lighting up our dopamine centers performs really well online. And now I can't leave this section without calling out one of the biggest offenders, and it is the home edit. This type of content is for views and to monetize. The beauty of it is wildly entertaining. It is extremely satisfying to watch someone rainbow organize their fridge. But how convenient that in order to rainbow organize your fridge, you need to buy $250 worth of products that they just so happen to sell. Like, oh my God, what are the chances? Link in my bio. To quote a quite sassy article I found from somebody named Hillary Kelly on curbed.com, she was speaking on the topic and said the home edit's Instagram feed dips into fantasy land, where fridges are packed with color-coded fresh produce, but entirely devoid of takeout containers and almost empty upside-down ketchups. But even as most of us can look at this fridge and be like, yeah, that's fantasy land, there's also this part of us that kinda wants it. If it looks so satisfying on an Instagram reel, imagine how satisfying it would be in real life. And I will tell you, I fell for this. You can watch me in this video while 38 weeks pregnant, irrationally trying to organize my fridge like the home edit. Because I have found that being 38 weeks pregnant can make you do pretty much anything, including convince you that you need an organized rainbow fridge. And it lasted all of maybe a few months and a newborn for me to realize this was absolutely not real. It was banana pants crazy. I can't believe I fell for it, but I did, as so many of us do. And that's why I think it is time to call this what it is. This is not organization. This is a performance. Your fridge is not a showroom. It is cold food storage. And I think that's what I find the most infuriating about these fridges, because you thought that I was done talking about this topic. I'm not done. It's actually how they do the opposite of organize. They sell you products you need to organize your fridge, but more times than not, these organizers end up reducing actual usable space. You put like a bin inside of a fridge drawer, and now suddenly you can only fit 3 string cheeses in there, and maybe a dream. And have you ever considered how you're going to clean all of these organization products that you have Jenga'd into your fridge? Because I have. I have had to clean them at 3 weeks postpartum, as we have already established, and let me tell you, it'll have you rethinking all of your life choices real quick. And then, oops, you bought a jumbo bag of grapes that don't fit into the special grape clean plastic bin, and so now what do? Oh, and God forbid that you didn't buy rainbow colored seltzers, because it turns out you don't like all 7 flavors. You just like the 2 flavors, and now it's not rainbow colored. What are you gonna do? All right, I'm done ranting on fridges, but we are not gonna leave the kitchen just yet, because while we are in the kitchen, I want to use it as a spot to stop and thank today's sponsor, which is ButcherBox. You guys know I'm always looking for any way to make my life easier and less complicated, and ButcherBox offers high quality cuts of meat, seafood, all raised without antibiotics or added hormones. And it comes frozen, so I can pop it right into the freezer, and this makes my meal planning a cinch because I can just reverse meal plan based on what I have in the freezer. I customize my box ahead of time, so I can choose exactly what I want and what I know we'll use that month, or I can skip a box if we don't need it that time, and I don't have to spend extra time trying to source the best quality meat from the grocery store. And I am genuinely impressed at the quality of the meat. You can tell that they take their sourcing standards really seriously. It is not always easy to find protein that's like raised this thoughtfully at a typical grocery store. Even local butchers sometimes don't even carry this like level of consistency. So it takes all of that extra work off my plate. Right now, you can get $60 off using the link in my description or the QR code on the screen, or by entering my code right here at checkout, plus free protein for a year. All right, let's move right along to the next organizational trend that I don't think works, and that is the clutter basket. The clutter basket on paper sounds really smart. It's the idea that you take all these random items floating around your house and you put them in one basket so that your counters and space look clean. It's very tidy and a little deceptive. The idea is that it's somewhere to tuck away a ton of stuff you don't know what to do with, and then you can get to it later. But if there's anyone else out there like me, and I'm betting I'm not alone, the clutter basket is not actually a temporary holding zone. It becomes a place where objects go to die. I toss random stuff in there when I'm in a rush to tidy, and I tell myself I will deal with it later, but I won't and I don't, because out of sight, out of mind. I do think a catch-all basket can work in small doses, absolutely. If you're someone who uses a clutter basket as you go around and clean your space, and then you are really good about making sure to empty it right then in the same cleaning session, then it 100% has a purpose. But using a clutter basket as a place to tuck away the stuff you don't know what to do with is a temporary solution that is going to grow into a bigger problem because we put it out of sight, out of mind, and we forget about it until it's grown so big that we can't ignore it anymore. The better solution, I think, here is just to try to deal with things as you can go. Moving on to my next trend, which is micro-organizing into small categories. So micro-organizing is when we break things down into these almost absurdly specific subcategories. The internet loves this because it is visually satisfying, and it usually can sell you something. It's lots of little bins put inside of other bins. So many bins to buy. An important thing to remember when it comes to organization is that in real homes, organizing systems succeed or fail based typically on how quickly you could get things put away and then find them again. Micro categories can help when they match how you naturally think and how you use items. For example, it could work in junk drawers, right? You have batteries, tools, miscellaneous cables. It can be useful because these are distinct, frequently used groups, but they stop working when the system becomes like too rigid, or when the process of micro-organizing creates more work to put away because you have separated everything down into its own bin, its own category, its own bag with zippers. And now you have to kind of pause and decide, like, does this go in the charging accessories or in the tech extras? While I do think there can be a time and place for micro-organizing, maybe in an adult craft space or with specific tools and hardware, my problem is that it's just been blown out of proportion to the sake of selling you stuff, to the point that we are micro-organizing stuff that absolutely has no point or purpose being micro-organized. Next up is rainbow organization, and here's where I feel like I'm calling out the home edit again, which I'm not trying to do some like home edit bashing piece. I want to be clear. I think there are things with the home edit that they do offer that are really practical tips, but to me it's their delivery where it's lost. Aesthetics is a really big part of what they're selling. They create this ultra stylized content because it performs well online, and it's worked really well for them, right? With book deals and a Netflix series and their own product line. But I don't think it's reality, and it irks me that they try to sell it to people as such. There is very little science to back up that organizing your stuff by color helps at all beyond just being visually nice to look at. Color can improve recall if you are tying it to a category. For example, when I read nonfiction books, I use 2 colors to highlight. If I highlight in blue, I know that I'm highlighting this because this is a word I don't know and I need to define it. And if I'm highlighting it in yellow, I know this is like an interesting fact. So I'm tying it to categories that have nothing to do with really like the color of what the product is. The first issue is that things aren't really organized by function if you're organizing by color. Just because like marinara and breadcrumbs both have red labels, it doesn't mean they belong together functionally. Visual search research shows that we use templates in our working memory when looking for something, and that template is typically semantic, meaning what the thing is, not visual, what the color is. The only time color organizing can actually help is if the function of the item is dependent on the color. Say, for example, you're an artist and you organize all your markers by color and you need a blue. You know it's easier to like go to the blue ones and find that blue. But these incidents are very few and far between when it comes to organizing in most of our house. I mean, if you just watched this video of the home edit trying to describe how to rainbow organize a bookshelf.
I'm gonna sound a little weird, but what else is new? When you have a spine with multiple colors, or maybe a top with multiple colors, you kind of need to like allow it to be a little bit of a Ouija board game in a bookshelf. The spine or the top will like tell you where it belongs in the rainbow color spectrum. In this one, I feel like the yellow and the green is the overarching color, so it's going to kind of belong in like the transition from yellow to green section. This one is giving me mostly a pink vibe, even though there's yellow in it. So like the way you know it works is you put it in the pink section. If it's glaringly wrong, it'll be like, beep, 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 take me out. If it fits, it's going to be like, yes, that's right. So let the book tell you.
I mean, I'm exhausted. And that was just for 2 books. Imagine organizing all of your stuff that way. Let's move along to my next organization tip that I don't think works very well, which is not having backups. So not having backups means like not keeping backstock of anything. And it's one of those minimalist organizing ideas that sounds really nice in theory. It's the idea that you should only keep exactly what you need. 1 bottle of dish soap, 1 toothpaste, 1 packet toilet paper. I don't know, maybe they're living life on the edge. They're trusting in the universe. I don't. Not when it comes to toilet paper. I lived through COVID lockdowns, okay? I get the premise of this. Too much backstock is 100% going to lead to overconsumption, to buying more than you have space for, to risking tons of waste and expiration and clutter. But I think that mindful backstock can be a lifesaver. I have certain things that I keep in my backstock for items I use regularly that are essentials. So this in my house is soap, toilet paper, diapers and wipes, toothbrushes, certain medicines, and then frequently used pantry items. These are things that our family uses every single week. Things like peanut butter, marinara, chicken broth, and flour. The key is you have reasonable backups and you store them intentionally. Each of the above mentioned backups has a clear spot that they live in my house. I only buy these specific things as backstock. I'm not buying extra pasta just because it was on sale because we don't eat a ton of pasta. I also don't keep a ton of backstock just because. But these essential backstock items have saved me so much, so many times when I am in a pinch. Next up, we're going to talk about decanting. Decanting is like the online organizing world's crown jewel. Remember, what really sells online is views or monetization, and this one hits both. Not only is it visually pretty, but it also allows you to be sold lots and lots and lots of products. And I will say there are some benefits to decanting, especially in your kitchen. Removing the bulky and often unhelpful packaging that many foods come in makes it easier to store and allows you to keep better tabs on what you own. That being said, managing this can be a bear. Not only do you need to add at least 30 minutes of putting away your groceries when you get them home, which could be argued is worth it if the overall effect ends up saving more time down the road. But you have now also added a lot of extra inventory management into your life because it's not as easy as simply refilling these. They need to be cleaned. You need to rotate them so the older product is on the top. You need a small overstock area of extra bins for when you buy something new or when you run out of something. It also does not allow for a ton of change or flexibility. Sure, I have staple items I buy a lot, but what about the random green lentils I get that one time or the new kind of flour I bought just to make that cake? And it always makes me think of the Khloe Kardashian pantry tour video. I've shared this before, but it's like all types of nonsense is happening in this video. I mean, in the pasta section, she actually admits that her pastas that are decanted aren't even being used. They're just simply for show.
Pastas, like this is like a one-time thing. If you just want decorative stuff, you don't have to redo this all the time. If you just keep a box of pasta somewhere. If you just want something to look good, who cares if these go stale? I don't even know if pasta does go stale. I'm not Italian, I don't know these things.
Like she has Ritz crackers that are decanted and perfectly arranged in a jar. I mean, we can all agree this is like absolute absurdity.
Fruit bowl. And you guys, before you hate me, not all fruit is real.
This is what I like to call merchandising your home. It's when we want to make our homes look like stores. This is one of these like things that has become really popular online, not because it's practical, but because it's like basically algorithm catnip. It's short, visual, satisfying, predictable, loopable, and they perform really well, and so the platform pushes them, and then they just get repeated by other people who want to see the same success. So this kind of like store aesthetic has spread, not because it works in real homes, but because it works on the internet and then gave us a false sense of it working at home. A store has one job: display products in the most attractive, easy to grab way possible, so you buy more of it. Your home has like every other job, right? Feed your kids, store your life, store that weird overflow of life, adapt to different seasons, schedule shifts, sick days, forgotten snacks, host relatives, try to drink 75 ounces of water a day, and don't forget to do your squats. Your pantry alone is doing way more than the Target aisle ever will. Welcome to Target! And if I'm gonna be honest, sometimes original packaging actually can be kind of useful, right? It has the expiration date, the cooking directions, the ingredients, and when the product is out, there's no extra steps of having to clean or refill. You can just put the box in the recycling. Now, yes, some categories, decanting can make sense. I'm not shaming the trend on a complete whole, but more just the fact that we have gotten to the place where we are decanting Ritz crackers. Cereal could make sense to decant if you have children like mine that are prone to like tearing the boxes open like raccoons. Maybe you have certain like nuts or granolas that you use daily or very frequently, and the packaging is just like a pain to store. My next trend is cheap Dollar Tree organizers. Now, before anyone panics, I love the Dollar Tree, but I just find that not every bin at the Dollar Tree is worth it just because it's only $1.25. Because buying a bunch of super cheap organizers just because they're cheap creates more problems than they solve. A lot of these cheap organizers are flimsy, they're weirdly sized, they're shallow, they're too narrow, or they crack if you like look at them the wrong way. But the problem is they're so dang cheap that most of us impulse buy like 14 of them and then get home and realize that they're not the right size. I will always say that you should buy a bin for a specific solution, not just because it's a bin. Always measure the area you need to organize first and identify the amount and the general size of the bins that you need. If the Dollar Tree can give you this, it's great. I have Dollar Tree bins I'm still using to this day, like these ones I use to store random odds and ends in my kitchen. But others, like these locker bins that had an absolute moment in like 2019, most of us have realized they're actually not quite big enough to store much, and they can't hold up to daily use. Very often, a ton of cheap bins like this tends to lead us to organizing junk instead of really just looking at what our stuff is and asking, what do we really need to keep in the first place? It gives us this sort of false illusion because we've taken all our clutter and we've made it look like some beautiful museum of our bits and bobs, and so we feel satisfied that it's taken care of, but like it's still just clutter. Okay, I guess if I had to sum up all of these trends, it would be a lot of organizing advice is focused on how your space looks and what it can sell you rather than how your home actually functions. The truth is, one of the best organization tips that you can follow is not very glamorous, so it's not going to get a ton of views online, but it's just to make it simpler. All right, my friends, that does it for this video. You may disagree with me on some of these, and that is totally fine. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below if any of these trends are ones that you use. Maybe you use them and you love them. Again, we all have different ways of getting to the same ends, you know? As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Hey, remember to be kind to yourself and others, and I will see you all in my next video.